Chapter 19. A week after Yule was when the Scythe arrived. Not that anyone knew what they were at the time, all believed they were displaced minor royalty from the north, all except Merlin. And, once she had spoken to an Erin, Elund. I came because I heard that you were taken to Camelot. An Erin told Elund when they were reunited, and went on to tell her that yes, she was right. There was more evidence that Medrawd was Bayard's child cast adrift and caught in the fishing folk's eel traps. Where was he, her friend? And did he know? It would make sense that he was prone to magic, for the Say had no concerns at all in using magic. They embraced and Elund went back to guarding the Lady Morgana who, after first resenting Aeled's presence, had been grateful when she had dreamed of Sophia and her father. I have been having them since before they arrived, Morgana told Gaius one morning, when Aeled had been summoned by the court physician for a checkup when they thought Aeled couldn't hear. As she sat on the other side of the curtain, treating her wyvern wound herself now, which had healed greatly and gave Elund far more movement, she heard Gaius reassure Morgana as to her safety of a Sagard. A boy arrived here from Rati. He told the lady. I do believe that their hearts are one. There had been a pause. Oh, Morgana had said, then, and her demeanor had softened towards Aeled, and fewer questions were asked over her expulsion. Perhaps Gaius's words had opened more doors than closed them, for Rodri, the cook, began to keep his distance and Murfine, the large, rude kitchen boy, began to lay traps for Aeled, which Elphice had fallen foul of and had caused a row between Rodri and Hector. At least Aeled slept beside Morgana's door, and was awoken in a timely fashion by Gwen in a morning bringing the ladies clothes and breakfast. Until the day Morgana slept, walked almost out of the window and sobbed because of the dreams with which she was haunted. Elund dreamed of Gwilod, and happier times, and of Matthew and Lancelot. And all the while the exiles from TA tilde RMA tilde squared R became almost permanent fixtures within Camelot. Until one day when Prince Arthur went missing. 88,888,888. The citadel of Camelot felt smaller than Elund remembered, or perhaps she had simply grown too large for its narrow hierarchies. Dressed once more in the crimson and steel of a guard, though the leather was scarred and the mail tarnished, she stood at the back of the throne room as Arthur proclaimed something about a feast. There had been altogether too many feasts for Sophu and Alfric since they arrived. But she wasn't watching them, or King Arthur. Instead, she was watching Morgana and Arthur. And Arthur, to her simmering irritation, was watching Lady Sophia. Close your mouth, Arthur Pendragon, Elund muttered as the prince walked past her toward the training grounds. The flies in Camelot are as thick as the flattery, and you're inviting both. Arthur stopped, his boots grinding against the gravel. He turned, a slow, dangerous smile spreading across his face. Ah, the Saxon speaks. I thought you were too busy nursing your bruised body to offer tactical advice on my social life. My body is fine, Elund snapped, her voice like flint on iron. It's your head I'm worried about. You look like a hound waiting for a scrap of meat. She is a guest of the court, Aeled the guard, Arthur said, stepping closer, his presence looming. Something a mercenary from the pits of Rati might not understand. It's called courtesy. Elund stepped towards Arthur, gripping her sword. I know the difference between courtesy and a tether, she retorted, crossing her arms. The movement sparked a sharp pain in her side, but she didn't flinch. Arthur's eyes narrowed, the banter sharpening into something more. You see threats in every shadow because you've lived in them for too long. Not everyone is trying to sell you to a mercen king, you know. No, Elund whispered, her voice low and venomous. Some people just want to drown you in a lake. I prefer the slave trader, at least he's honest about the price. They stood inches apart, a tense, vibrating space between them. There was no softness, only the high-voltage energy of two predators who recognized each other's bite. Arthur looked at the scar on her neck, a reminder of the wyvern's attack. Elund looked at the expression on his face that he wore so heavily, knowing he was thinking about that day in Gwalod. Get to the battlements, Arthur commanded. though his voice lacked its usual royal steeliness. "If you're so worried about my safety, watch the horizon for Wyvern. It'll give you something to do other than insult your betters." "I'll go," Elund said, turning on her heel. "But if you end up at the bottom of a river, don't expect me to jump in. I've had enough of rivers to last a lifetime." 88,888,888. As she climbed the winding stairs to the north wall, a small figure stepped out from behind a tapestry. Her heart hammered, her hand flew to her dagger, before she saw the pale face and the hauntingly familiar eyes. "Matthew," she breathed, the last person she ever thought she would see. She pulled him to one side into the Lady Morgana's room. The boy, however, shook his head, his finger to his lips. "Elund." And they talked, all manner of thoughts leaving Elund's mind as she listened to Matthew tell her about his training on Niceman, and the Druids' persecution under Camelot law, that they had to flee and scatter. "Mordred," he told Elund. "I came here to find the great wizard Emrys," he told her. "I know of no one by that name," Elund told him, taking his hand. "The Druids," Merlin said. "Uther was burning villages. I thought you were gone." "I am a shadow now," Mordred said, his voice sounding far older than his years. "Like you, the Saxon who protects the weak. I heard the stories in the camps." "They're just stories," she bit back, not wanting to be reminded of her days as a mercenary. "Why are you here?" "If the guards see a broken bar, I came to warn you." "The girl, Sophia. She is not of this world. Her father, Ulfric, seeks passage back to the gates of Avalon. The price is the soul of a prince." Elund felt a cold dread settle in her marrow. "Arthur." "He would not listen to me, even if I were to try," Mordred said, his eyes reflecting a strange, golden light. "But he listens to you, even when he is shouting at you." "You have a bond, Elund, born of blood and iron." "We have nothing but a mutual desire to see who can swing a sword harder," she spat, though the lie felt thin. "In fact, Anaran thinks that I am the heir of Mercia." He grinned, then laughed. "It was never me, no matter what your friend believes he has discovered. And believe me, Elund, it may help you in the future that people do think of you as Bayard's kin." Mordred leaned to her, as the old days, and whispered, "The blood of Mercia and the blood of Camelot. Save him. If he falls now, the future I have seen a broken bar, your future a broken bar will fall to nothing." Elund looked at her friend for a moment, 1,000 questions in her mind. "Stay here," she told Mordred. "Wait for me." Instead of going to the battlements, Elund went to the armory and found Arthur polishing a shield. The Lady Sophia had retired, but the prince looked restless, his movements distracted. "Still here?" Arthur asked without looking up. "I thought I told you to take the watch." "The watch is covered," Elund said, diligently, picking up a practice blade and testing its balance. "And you look like you need to hit something, or be hit." Arthur looked up, his brow furrowed. "I'm not in the mood for your tongue, Aeled." "Then defend yourself." She lunged. It wasn't a formal salute or a knightly challenge, it was the raw, explosive strike of a mercenary. Arthur barely got his shield up in time, the ring of steel echoing through the empty hall. "What are you doing?" he demanded, his own warrior instincts kicking in as he pivoted. "Reminding you what reality feels like," Elund countered, swinging a heavy overhead blow that he parried with a grunt. "You're drifting, Arthur. Your head is in the clouds and you are missing what's right in front of you." They traded blows with a savage efficiency. No grace, just power. Arthur drove her back against a rack of spears, his superior strength forcing her down, but she used her smaller frame to roll, kicking his dominant leg out from under him. They scrambled up at the same time, breathing hard, swords crossed at the hilt, faces inches apart. "You're arrogant, stubborn, and you have the diplomatic skills of a mountain goat," she hissed, her eyes wild. "And you," Arthur panted, a smirk tugging at the corner of his mouth despite himself, "are a violent, disrespectful brat who wouldn't know an order if it bit him on the nose." "Good," she said, breaking the bind and stepping back. "Now that we've established that, stay away from the lake tomorrow. I don't care how pretty the lady is. If you go, I'm telling Merlin to put a sleeping draught in your wine." Arthur lowered his sword, the enchantment in his eyes flickering for a second, replaced by a grudging, resentful respect. "You're a nightmare, you know that?" "I'm say," Elune said, sheathing her blade. "Sleep well, my lord." She walked out, leaving Arthur standing in the middle of the armory, his hand trembling slightly and his mind fuzzy. There was something wrong, and somehow it was this new guard's fault.